If true, this changes everything. A recent report has revealed that the Minnesota Vikings are likely to move down in the draft and trade their first round pick. But we also have the two picks that are likely to be made by the Minnesota Vikings and favored picks by the Minnesota Vikings at this year's NFL draft. We're going to be talking about this report, breaking it down, and also breaking down these two players and how they would fit into the Minnesota Vikings system. Very quickly, before we get into this video, be sure to hit the sub button if you haven't already. We know that just over 91% of you guys watching right now are not subscribed to the channel. We're on the road to 2K after just hitting 1K. Your support has been absolutely incredible lately, and we appreciate all of it. The Vikings got a lot of busy schedules coming up, so we're going to be covering every single bit of it. But without any further ado, let's get into the topic of this video. Starting out with the pick. This is a very interesting report when it does come down to it, revealing that the Minnesota Vikings could be trading that first-round pick to move down and get more picks in this year's draft. They say, of course, they could, and likely will trade down to ensure they leave the weekend with more than 4 draft players. But for now, picks 24 and 97 are the only top 100 selections possessed by the Vikings. Which positions might they address in the first few rounds? We know that it's likely going to be a secondary player, whether that will be a safety or a corner, and it's going to be likely an offensive lineman to fill in that other guard that we have now with the absence, with the addition, I should say, of Will Fries on that right guard. We still have an open spot for left guard to really solidify and revamp this entire offensive line. So getting into it here now, this is what we have. NFLs.com Chad Reuter has identified his ideal first 2 picks for the Vikings and every other team in a new article. But here is the Vikings picks, or what they are planning on taking. With number 24 in the first round, Azareye'h Thomas, cornerback out of Florida State, a very, very solid player, and one myself that I've been really high on in this draft. We have him, Malaki Starks, and Jahdae Barrett. Those 3 are the ones that me and Griffin have really discussed here in this channel. More so, Starks and, not so much, I would say, Azareye'h Thomas at this point, but he's been a guy, as a Florida State fan, that I've been big on, I've been pretty high on as of late, and especially with the Vikings plan. Now, I'm going to touch on him first, but of course, 97 overall as well. Wyatt Milum, we're going to be talking about him just a little bit later, but when it does come down to Azareye'h Thomas, a guy who has been very, very good his few seasons with Florida, and last year, although not getting the ball thrown his way too much, quarterbacks have tried to avoid him. He still put up some incredible numbers. And this is the description they have here from this article, which comes from Sports Illustrated, based on this, written by Will Ragatz, I believe. So check that out from him. But Azareye'h Thomas is my favorite press man cornerback in this draft, if he declares, which of course he has. Now this is October 24th, 2024, but most of this, if not all, still applies. He's an effortless mover at 6'2", an A-plus ball skill, and route ID. It's hard to find a weakness in coverage. Quarterbacks have to avoid him this year, and he hasn't been as productive, but I have him as a first-round grade on him at the moment. And now this comes from James Foster, No Flag Film on X, and this is an absolute perfect, down to the exact detail, perfect description of Azareye'h Thomas. Very, very good. This season, as I mentioned, not throwing the ball in his direction too much. Quarterbacks have needed to avoid him. And although this season for Florida State really was not ideal, he still played a fantastic season. And the season before as well continues to just stack up on top of that. Now, we've discussed the secondary here on the channel. That's going to be a big need of whoever they're going to sign. We've been pretty high on Malaki Starks here on the channel because of the need of a safety. Harrison Smith coming back for what will be is likely his final year. Now, I thought we said that last year as well. He ultimately did come back. And Theo Jackson, the recent acquisition, the Vikings have definitely put themselves in a good situation right now to be able to go out, find a guy that they're looking for, really, be put in the right direction. They have this 24th now. They can and likely will move somewhere around that. Maybe they trade this down a bit, get a second rounder, get a third rounder, but Malaki Starks has been one of the guys that we've been looking at as well. Because when we look at the depth chart here, Harrison Smith, Jay Ward, and Bubba Bolden, then free safety. Theo Jackson, recent acquisition, but that is it in the secondary for safeties. Now, when we look at cornerbacks, Isaiah Rodgers, Byron Murphy, who re-signed, Mekhi Blackman will be healthy this year. Josh Metellus will probably play some safety this year if there is no safety signed or drafted here in this year. And of course, also going to Jeff Okudah, who's going to be another cornerback for this team, and Najee Thompson. Jeff Okudah, a player who I'm pretty high on. I'm not going to say he's going to be a star for this team, but what we saw with him in Detroit We know that he can be a very good corner, and if he bounces back, things are looking good for there. But there has been a big hole in safety for this team. So I'm more leaning towards Malachi Starks, although I would love to have another Florida State player on this team in Azareye'h Thomas. He is a very good player, and so so are the rest of the links that we're looking at here from the Vikings regarding the secondary. But I want to know what you guys think. Who would you rather? Would you rather Malachi Starks, Azareye'h Thomas? Let me know who you want in the comments below. But right now, I'm thinking that the secondary, specifically the safety, needs to be a bit bolstered here. And the draft is a perfect spot to do that. But let's move on as well to Wyatt Milum. And as for Milum, he could potentially compete with Blake Brandel and Michael Juergens for the Vikings left guard job right away as a rookie. Now, he is a tackle. Was a tackle in college at West Virginia. Will be coming here into this draft. Likely going to be moving to guard. We're going to get into a reason why here. And the 6'6", 23-year-old has a 4-year starter at left tackle for West Virginia, who graded very well and was named an All-American last season, but with shorter arms and good but not great athleticism, many have him forecasted that he'll move to guard in the NFL. He's got some quality reps on his interior at the Senior Bowl, and Milum plays with the nastiness you want to see from an offensive lineman, and his upside might get him drafted earlier than 97. And there have been reports, and when you go and look at this article, and when you know those little videos in the corner, one pops up saying at the NFL Draft Combine, when they were commentating that he could be the first offensive lineman taken off the board. Now, of course, you never really know at this point, especially when it comes to linemen in this year's draft, who's going to be looking where the draft's going to go. I think there's so many moving parts that you have to go through before you can actually determine this, but there's been a few things that I want to touch on here with Wyatt Milum. And I do think that he is a very good player. Looking at some of his tape, he is a very, very solid tackle. And of course, when you get up to the NFL, with his athleticism, his shorter arms, the guard may be a better position for him. But with the Vikings, where we need a left guard, a certified left guard, compete with Blake Brandel to become a starter, I want to see a Vikings draft a guard. I don't really want to see a tackle move to guard. I want to see a guard, natural position guard here come into this Vikings team. Now, I'm not saying he won't have any success at guard. I think he certainly could. But I want to see someone who could really come in here and make an immediate impact. And although, you have to learn it a bit more than when you're in a tackle, you have to kind of adjust to the position, especially jumping up at a higher level like the NFL. I do think he has a lot of potential there, but there are some free agents as well that we kind of touched on here in the past few videos that I would love to see here on the Vikings and really just jump in right away rather than having to kind of be edged into this position from tackle to guard. So let me know what you think about that as well. We've talked about Joseph Savaiinaea here as well. Whatever's going to be going on with him, he's still an option now. The Vikings are going to need to be able to get a second-round pick if they're looking at him, which, looking at it in a specific way, they could kind of jump around in the first, maybe move down to get a second and a first. They would have to give up some other picks, and with only 4 in this draft, they're going to need to be very, very careful with what they do with these picks, who they pick, if they trade any of them, to be able to make the best draft selections possible. So let me know what you think about these two options here. I think we're in a pretty good spot. And when we look at, of course, the PFF grading or the next-gen stats, they have Wyatt Milum as will be an average starter eventually, 6.24 grading there. And the NFL next-gen stats have him at a 78, which is good. So, pretty in the middle of the road. And they're having him at tackle here as well on this. So take this with a grain of salt. Kind of consider this, moving positions as well. But let me know what you think in the comments below. What do you think about these two players? Is there anyone you wanted to see with a potential first-round pick? And if not in the first round, what do you want the Vikings to do with that pick? Do you want to see it traded, move down? Let me know what you think in the comments below. But that's all I got in this video. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. And remember, we have a lot of stuff coming with this Minnesota Vikings team, so be sure to hit that sub button. Join us here on the channel. That's all we got in this video, though. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.